Before we move on to the next example of how I envisage units, our units that are well designed, I'd still need to complete a discussion about organizing a unit or creating a unit that revolves around assisting students in creating poems. Now, there's a reason why I displayed why I have displayed these three principles here: awareness, autonomy, achievement. The reason for it is because, first of all these exercises we do with students, which is to compare and contrast, are actually about, as I said before in part one, about bringing to surface some knowledge that students have and some knowledge students don't have, but it is about raising awarenesses. Autonomy here aspect is about doing it, these kinds of activities that enable students to explore by comparing and contrasting in a way that actually, in such rich ways, that actually these exercises enable students to relate their own personal histories to these examples, and therefore in this kind of rich support manner we facilitate a learning that actually is we facilitate a form of learning that is oriented towards um, supporting students' individual engagement in their learning, as opposed to what I said before, forms of teaching where students produce answers to teachers to satisfy the teacher, but actually there is no profound learning happening at the deep level in a form of learning that engages students' entire histories and expands those histories in a number of ways. And as a result, students can act and interpret actions on a broader, more expanded basis. I call it informed basis. Now, when it comes to achievement, this is a very interesting aspect here, because in my part one, what I was trying to show you was basically, I just wanted to give you the feel for how the unit of the kind that I just designed could be or should be, or one way of organizing units for assisting students in creating poems. But this concept of achievement is extremely important, because as I was taking you through the the concepts that underpinned my design, what I still didn't show you was how to account for achievement, which means creating situations that students actually feel that they are achieving as they are learning. So you know that doesn't matter with what age, with what kinds of students you work, with what of what age and in what school, people really like to see that they are actually moving towards something. So I suggest that you break down that each kind of lesson or each module, but definitely each lesson, ends with some kind of high point, so that students know what actually how they moved towards the project, which is actually to engage them in writing their poem. So one of the activities you can create as they actually do exploration is what I created here, which is a table with vocabulary. Now notice there's a lot of that stuff actually suggested in curriculum, but it now needs to be explored critically. So notice now, as students are working with you and comparing and contrasting and looking at different elements of what makes particular things sound like an anthem, and some things sound like romantic song, for example. What I didn't put in here was, for example, an anthem would be appreciation. Right here you would put appreciation, high level emotion. So what would be love? Why not? Love for the country. So all these adjectives that students were exploring with you, you can actually find a way for them to not lose them, but start organizing and putting them in right slots. So now what happens is the children are developing their treasure box, the treasure box of culturally embedded or references. So now, for example, I just mentioned these things here: appreciation, love for the country, whatever else you will come up uh, with as you are learning with or assisting students to learn, um, to identify the qualities of different genre. But at the same time, once you move to a lower level, which is gestuality, it would be one, and I didn't put that table of gestuality, which would be good actually to have one. But another one here is with words. So emotions of praise. You fill me with wonder, he's singing, and here would be the reference, right? So how you design your table, I mean, obviously this is just something I created on the run. You can have pretty tables with clear differentiation between the vocabulary and the source of it. This is very nice because you know yourselves that as you go through life, you are a walking dictionary or walking databases of stuff like that. You know the lines from movies, from songs, and that's what I'm doing here, creating these putting these lines actually into the table so that students can see, can actually use them as resources as they are creating their poems, as they will create their poems. So you see, it becomes quite a nice database, and you have those words organized as emotions of praise, emotions of blame or negative emotions. So in that international that we were listening to, they use words something: once you were nothing and tomorrow you'll be everything. So once nothing, tomorrow everything. Or in Alia's poem, I feel I don't belong in this world. So that was also a kind of negative emotion. So that's one way. It doesn't have to be negative fully. It's kind of reflective, but it's not saying I love you, right? None of that. It's kind of more reflective towards like some form of disappointment. A positive here, emotion of praise. When I look in your eyes, it's a kind of phrase. I wasn't sure where to put it. I didn't really see it as putting it into action words. It's more like an emotion. When I do this, I feel, right? When I look in your eyes, it's a kind of more an emotion of praise. Put it this way, you can't go wrong here. The idea is actually to organize things somehow. There will never be a true way of organizing, but it is a support. Now, okay, we've got other ones here. Action words here from the Chinese anthem. We have rise up. From this romantic song, we have we build our church above the street. Very poetic phrase. You see what happens? You are expanding students' vocabulary, but you're not really doing that. What you're expanding is students' cultural frames of reference, as they are exploring those frames of reference in order to produce something creative, something that will be well received by people who are living in an Anglo-Saxon culture, or actually can understand the terms that are used in order to produce, say, poetry or songs in English. So you're actually supporting them in their cultural expansion, as opposed to in learning words and grammar, right? Places footsteps somewhere outside below. So it's a nice way to say that there is a world outside, underneath their apartment, right? There's a world out there. So, and that's a very poetic. You could actually write this is more poetic than, for example, rise up, right? So you could actually even have that classification as well. Which ones of them are more poetic and which ones of them are less poetic? Depends on you how far you want to go. And maybe as your students are creating these tables, organizing references and organizing words in slots, I wouldn't be too tough on them if they get things in wrong column. They will either correct it or they will get it wrong. Nothing will happen. You might want them every so often to have a go to work with those words towards some kind of poem, and as we go through more exploration they will add stuff to it. That could be a way to account for achievement. as students are learning with you and exploring, you want, as I said, you want each lesson to have some sort of culminating point that enables students to see, look, this is what I achieved today. Look, this is what I achieved today, right? And one of them could be filling more slots in this, or attempting to fill the slots and maybe start sort of creating um, a few lines of a poem. Now, these decisions cannot be made ad hoc, like sort of like come to you without reflection. I don't have time to think about it, but I give you a principle, and now you can, as you create your units of work, please hold it, keep it in mind, and account for it. Now, could you use this particular unit for your unit of work? Yes, you can. I mean, this is not ready, nowhere near. This is just a concept that needs to be taken up and expanded and worked with. So that could have been easily taken by a student. Okay, now I want us to go to another unit of work that I have sent to you probably in week 1 or week 2, which was the Sam's Games. Remember this? And I want you to now see again with me, go with me through the rationale of it, and so that you can see how a simple activity like this, which is based first on spoken language, can actually turn into a nice unit of work where you teach students procedural texts to produce them as spoken text, or also to introduce writing if your students are at that level. Again, the activity that I have uploaded for you for reflection, for seeing how you could actually work with it, should consist of 3 activities. I have only developed one activity, which is the egg game. There was a frog game and there was a geography game as well in it. So that's something that could have been developed by any of the students. Now, this is again not a perfect resource to support you as a teacher in assisting students in going about learning to create procedural text. This is just a concept or proof of a concept. It would require someone to reflect on the phrases that I'm using, or maybe change them for different texts and so on. This is done for quite lower level of for students who have low proficiency levels. Okay, well, you may not be actually able to see the entire screen at some stages, but that's okay. You will see it on and off. So the game begins, and we've recorded this voice here saying, yeah, and that's nice, isn't it? And this is what we're creating, a situation where Sam is the hero and he's actually interacting now with a student. I call the student Max. I have no idea whether Max actually appears. Yeah, Max appears here in our game. So Sam is introducing the things he loves to the student. So what the unit of work already is doing is creating a separation between the teacher and the student. So it's not always you standing there and saying, do this, do that, do that. But now we have Sam, and Sam is a friend. Sam talks to Max, and Sam wants to play with Max. And how's he doing this? Right, he's saying, hello, my name is Sam. Hello, my name is Sam. You can play it, kids love it, play it 200 times for all I care. And and then he says, what is your name? What is your... And then this is a PowerPoint, but if you could actually now make Max respond and actually record himself. So, what is your name? My name is Max. My name is Max. And you could have here a little icon where on which students can click and can record their voice, isn't it? So we have just established a relationship between Max and Sam. What is your name? My name is Max. Okay, we'll just go what's happening next. And Sam is saying, these are the games I play. These are the games I play. You could have unpacked it here to actually show to students what he's actually saying, but this is pretty good. Students can click on the egg, and Sam is showing to Max one of his games that he plays. So you'd be hard pressed to actually guess that the entire unit was created about teaching students to use adverbial phrases. It would have never occurred to you. It never occurs to anybody, but that's what happened. Because if you teach adverbial phrases in a way that they are adverbial phrases, it bores people and they can't actually get the point, or you tire them. Whereas here you can hear adverbial phrases. The egg is in the basket. Right? We have to put the egg into a basket, right? So we've got them all here, but the idea, really the higher level, higher order skill is actually to get students to learn sequencing, to talk in English in sequences, to actually organize their speech, so to produce a procedural text which is coherent, um, which means that there is this linear order. And so that's the higher order skills. Skill at the lower level, they are learning all kinds of things and the adverbial phrases. Okay, so what is happening now? Because Sam is playing with Max, it really doesn't matter how much of English Max actually gets here. The exposure itself is very important, but Max can see that Sam is playing a game, so Max gets quite a lot out of that. Now, remember this one. Now, in order to see these activities, what they do, you have to actually run them. You cannot actually browse through those slides in edit mode because you get nothing out of them. They have to be actually run as presentations. So with the frogs, another game that Max is playing. Right. So now what's important that I don't think I created that resource for this particular unit. I created it for the fun of it. And now I integrated it into this learning resource. But when you actually create resources like this, you can use speech. I mean, my speech is quite slow and clear, but make your own choices. So Max is now watching what Sam is showing him. Okay, I used in the other game, I said, whoops, we missed it, very Australian. And there we go, very Australian. So you use those things. All right, you get the idea. I actually this time by some miracle got it. It was the first time I actually got the game, and it was when I was recording it. Okay, and then there is a geography game. Now, obviously, the geography game is about countries, but for younger children, you could actually use it as shapes. It really doesn't matter. The idea is to put shapes in the right places. So I wouldn't be too worried whether they see it as countries and a map or whether they see it as shapes. Now, look what Sam is saying. You play now. Right? He's not saying, could you please tell me how to say adverbial phrase in the basket, right? He's not killing Max. He's saying, you have a go, right? You play now. So so these are now, I'm not sure if you can see the links, but these are links to those games where I found them. So now Max is playing himself and talking Polish or Chinese, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. Max is now getting involved. And look at this. Sam is now talking to Max. And the idea here is that we don't want to ask children, how would you say it? How will we structure it? And or I don't know what else, what other options we might have. The idea is now that through supported and yet staged sentences, we put words into Max's mouth, the words of the procedural text. But we don't make Max memorize them. Well, eventually, I mean, effectively he will. We introduce this text as an engagement between Sam and Max, right? So first, after Max played, Sam is saying, did you play? And Max is scratching himself and doesn't know how to answer. So you should have here, you see how I have these question marks here? You should have question marks of this kind too. So next one, what happened? Now you give Max a chance to actually say a word of three. Um, it doesn't really matter. Max could be just smiling because he could be a shy boy. Did you click? Now my support is quite primitive. You can come up with much nicer support. But if Max is taught to click on the question mark, this arrow should be actually animated to point to the button start, which was actually on the game itself, right? So did you click on start? If it is animated, it's more obvious. And Max is nodding because Max doesn't know how to say, maybe doesn't know how to say, yes, I did. But if he says it, yes, I did, that's cool. Or you could here give another option and show, yes, I did, with the person nodding, and no, I didn't, with the person shaking his or her head, right? You could actually produce responses like that as a support on the other side. So obviously I haven't done everything here because it is just a concept. Did you see the eggs? Well, it's an egg, right? Eggs in a basket. Adverbial phrase. Here you go. Did you see the eggs? Yes, I did. If you actually provide some other support. Were the eggs in baskets? Right? And look at this. You've got your adverbial phrases. One is on the bottom, one in the middle, and one on top. I'm not sure whether the camera is catching everything. I don't think so. But it doesn't matter. You've got this resource. You could have downloaded it. So it really doesn't matter. Here's how it looks. One on the bottom, one in the middle, and one on top. So there are 3 baskets. Okay. So we play again. We go back. How many baskets did you see? Oops. Okay, so now I have moved us to a next slide by accident. But this slide what it does, it shows you that we have started to incorporate possibility for Max to actually record either the questions themselves or the answers, up to Max, what he wants to record here. We don't have to control. Whatever Max feels better, stronger about. Did you play? He could record himself. Did you play? What happened? He can record himself as saying what happened. Or he can record himself responding to it. No big deal. Let's have a look what happens next. Now we have, and Max can record. Okay, so look at the screen first, because you couldn't probably see, with the camera was not catching the entire screen. Now, so you have, did you play? Questions. Then the questions are said here again. Here are Max's answers, and Max can actually now start learning to write the answers. I think I might have jumped some step here, but it doesn't really matter. You get the concept. Because, oh, I want to run it. I can't. Okay. So, yes. So Max has an answer now. And it would be nice if Max saw how it's written, right? So, did you play? Yes, I did. Okay, so what happened? I did well. Okay, so Max recorded himself. Sam is asking, did you click on start? And Max is answering, yes, I did. And now with the smart board, you can start introducing ways to support children actually in writing, yes, I did. So, did you click on start? Yes, I did. And how would Max write, yes, I did? So I've written the entire answer. You could actually produce now more things. So yes, I did is here, but you could add to it another slide, or if they clicked on something else, the did would come up with some animation, like D and another D would be, say, in red, and I could be in blue, just to actually accentuate that I is a vowel. And I always recommend having different colors for consonants and different colors for vowels. It goes a long way with students who actually, it just allows students to separate. It reinforces the idea that that there are different letters, so they don't actually memorize just the entire word, which is not a bad thing to begin with, but they start learning that there are differences between different signs. So, did you see the eggs? Yes, I did. All he has to do is to remember how he wrote it here. If he can't, you put him back in here. Um, were the eggs in baskets? Yes, yes, they were. How do you write that? And again, you can add a little activity here in order to reinforce the idea of writing, yes, they were. Right. So let's have a look what's next. Now the entire answer is here, and the entire dialogue. Okay, so the slide, the way I designed it, and this is a really hard exercise, looks like this. So this is the speech of Sam. It would be nice to have actually Sam here and Max's picture next to him, so that to show the difference. Actually, that's Max. So we have Max here, and we take Sam from here. Whoops, do you know where we were? Here. We put Sam. Now in order, whether we use Smartboard or PowerPoint, we need to send it to the back so that Sam is not taking over the entire screen. Right, so let's see if we can make the icon still play the sound files. Okay, so we have Sam and Max. Did you play? Yes, I did, says Max. What happened? I did well. It's a very simple answer. So what happened? You'd think that they would say a long story. No, I did well. Um, did you click on start? Yes, I did, and so on. So you go through that dialogue. So Max and Sam are talking, and they've recorded themselves. And look at this. Um, what happened might ask Max, and okay. So maybe what we should do here is to show you this slide. We should put Max here, right? And we should put Sam here, asking all these questions. We put Sam, push him to the back, so he's not covering on a doggy, right? We push Sam here, right? So we've got Sam. What happened? Right? And now, after Max has told the story and recorded himself and whatever 3,000 times, and Max can actually, I don't know, there could be some recording or whatever. Somehow Max can be supported with, I played, I did well. I saw what did he say? An egg. Amazing, isn't it? So I missed the point somewhere. I missed one of the slides here, but it doesn't matter. You can see how with this record your voice, listening to someone else's voice, uh, say yes I did, and yes I did, yes they were, and then you move on into sentences where they start producing more complicated um, sentences simply by having actually heard Max say a million times. Did you click on start? Yes, I did. Because this dialogue happened so many times, Max is now getting very fluent in using these sentences. So then we make it harder for him, and we actually make his memory exercise. Yes, I saw an egg, or I saw something. Um, then I clicked on start, and so on. So you can see the PowerPoint as you run it for yourselves. The point is here to engage Max in a dialogue that is procedural and that changes from yes I did to I did well. I saw an egg. I clicked on start, right? And there should be support, still support here. I think that the support I created here was simply this. That's fine on Smartboard. And then we have the last bit, and again there's a recording what happened, and Sam should record himself saying I played, I did well, I saw an egg, and so on. So it'd be nice to have these icons for for Max actually recording himself, so but then Max can, after he recorded himself, he can actually listen to himself. So this procedural text is reinforced in Max's head in more than one way. And as a result, you can actually say to him, Max, what happened? And he'll say, I played. I did well. I saw an egg. I clicked on start. I saw 3 baskets. I threw an egg into the basket, and it was fun. You've got your procedural text. So you can see that we started quite simple with, or complex. We started first with speech and with play, and we gradually moved from very simple interactions to more complex, which were requiring from Max increasingly complex actions. From yes, I did to I clicked on start. Okay, so that's how could it be a unit of work? Well, because it takes time to actually go through a game of this kind. As you recall, we had 3 games here. One was about the egg, one was about frogs, and one was actually a geography game. You could have a different game. I mean, I couldn't find another game, and I had resources prepared for geography games, so there you go. I just chose these games. You could find any other games for that purpose. And so we have 3 games, and we need now, our objective is to get Max interact with Sam through dialogues that are well constructed and well supported, so that Max knows what to say when asked what, and also is able to understand what Sam is asking him. So I produced some rudimentary support, good enough. You can actually make it nicer, with things like nodding and shaking head and so on. And after a while, when this dialogue between Sam and Max, while for each slide it feels different, and yet it's all the same sentences, all the same. So after working with those sentences for 20 minutes or for an hour, Max can sing it. Max will be dreaming it at night, not only telling you what happened. And if you create a similar form of activity, I don't know, you might actually create a different one. My imagination is quite limited. So if you created an activity of the kind like this one, or similar in some other ways and different in different ways, you starting with a spoken language and ways of playing things that what children do in Australia, which is to play computer games or whatever games, any other games. What happens now, children engage in the activity, and then gradually you can get them involved in a dialogue. And I like the idea of using the computer because now we have Sam, Sam and Max talking to one another as opposed to children, and it's just gets a little bit disorganized. I don't have a problem with it, but for everything there is a place. So this one is a very focused, very systematized, and enables you to put words into Max's mouth and also start actually introducing increasingly more writing. Um, so doing this for frogs and doing this for geography, the whole activity here is quite big. It would have taken you probably 5 weeks to cover. I don't know, maybe 3 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. It's quite a big resource if it was done properly and if it was finished. I didn't finish it, I just left it there. Now, before you would move to frogs, what I actually have done is, as always I do, I did the same with sheep. I just created some other activities which actually break down the idea of, I mean, they just sort of create a break between this focused, really focused work on dialogizing with Max and just doing some fun online activities. This particular one that I have is about the dog under the table, next to the table. I mean, I just wanted to fulfill the obligation about the adverbial phrases. So there's a lot of exercises that do that. Now, obviously, depending on the level of your students, you will have appropriate activities. This is just to have fun after one thing is completed. So children know, oh, we did that. We've done they don't know it's a procedural text, but we've done this text. We played with Sam. We're really, really good. Now it's time to play other things, right? And that's a sort of completion. And then you can move on to frogs, and then you can move on to geography game, to the geography game. So take it as you may. This is how I think of supporting students in a way that is not confronting, that allows exploration, that allows to find out whether we're getting it right, what to say, how to say it, and so on. Obviously, this unit doesn't have enough support, and also I didn't actually look deeply. All of this is just a proof of concept, just to stir your imagination and work from there. Now we will move to another resource that we actually were discussing. This is just a quick overview of this particular resource, just to give you an idea. Now, this was based on pictures created by Natasha Hardy, as I mentioned in my other YouTube video. So you can see what I have created as a result of Natasha's inspiring picture. So the picture shows us different aspects of a village, of the community and people. And what you can do now is actually, with arrows pointing to different aspects of the village, create exploratory activities about this particular aspect of the village. So it's about gardens, it's about children living in the house and people being in the house. I have actually myself created a game there where mom is cooking. I mean, all these cooking games are just fantastic. And someone is watching on television some the Lion and the Mouse movie, which is actually on YouTube. So you creatively, how did I do that? I'll show you how I did it. Well, it's very simple. You just show them what they are watching. It's just a television. So once we actually run it, so you got the idea. So how did I, um, just one second. So how did I do that? I just took a picture of a television set from Google. I inserted with AutoStream a video inside of it, and there's the whole magic. Um, so how can I show you? So I don't know. Now, depending on the level of your students, you will have different activities with different kind of support. But the whole concept is as suitable for 5-year-olds as it is suitable for 15-year-olds. Now, the level of engagement will differ. So they click on this and they get a game about gardens and everything about garden, and you can teach them about garden. They click on here, they'll get an information about something else. Here they can click on each of these people and you can actually send them to games which teach students aspects of cultural activities of different people. So that's nice too. And then you probably should create some support activities so that students can actually learn why they how to learn better how to actually work with those resources. I'll just exemplify something here. Now, I'm not very sophisticated, so I just found examples which were free online and not that really wonderful, but I'll show you how it works. So they click on this. You can see that I want you to now take them to some gardening game, whatever the game you find. And then once they come back, you take them into Did You Play sort of thing, and then to some exercise that is gonna take them now through some things you want to actually um, work on the concept of the garden, right? But let's have a look now at this game about garden, something I found on the internet. So we have this sophisticated game. Uh, uh, Seeds, okay. So I don't know whether you can hear it, whether it's recording, but every time I touch, it's the doggy is actually saying the names of plants. Sunflower, watermelon, okay. Okay, so let's take the whistling flower. Good choice, right? Oh, I have to plant it. Water. Magic powders, okay. I have to take that and I have to put it here. Starting to grow, right? It's really cool. So then you can take seeds. Okay, you get the gist of it. It just can go forever. So I'm just gonna pause it here. So because you're working with the community, and the community has many aspects to it, so they do garden, they do construction, they have houses, they have different people, up to you how many things you will actually focus on. And there's there's a million of fantastic games online that will allow you to do things that I just did with the garden, and then you can do a reinforcing activity. But you've got to have a real focus for this, for the unit, like one or two assessment tasks, so that students know why they are doing this. So remember, at the end of each lessons, they have created something, like edit things to their table or build something or whatever it is. They have to feel that they're moving forward, right? It's going well. So there. I think that this PowerPoint is on your website. Um, I will upload it in any case, because at worst, once you run it, what it will have is links to a number of games. Um, so that's a good thing. But I know that you have access to all these professional websites with professional educational games, so you don't actually need any of that. But you can use the pictures, provided that you actually reference a friend who actually created these pictures, and her name is Natasha Hardy. Then you can use it. Oh, look at this here. Right in the beginning, actually, in order to actually find out where this village is, I have included here a game where students have to now find in that game where New South Wales is, because this particular village is in New South Wales. Now I didn't record here the voice, like we live in New South Wales, just because my computer is faulty. But yes, every time you actually do something like we live in New South Wales, do record your voice. Now, because I don't want to waste much time um, creating more and more of those YouTube videos about the same things, I have discussed the sheep activity game in our area YouTube video, so I don't have to discuss it. But again, the sheep activity was a fantastic resource around which you could use to actually build a unit of work, because the more support you create, the more you actually build around this, build things around the resource, the re, uh, the more mileage you get out of it, right? So there, it may feel unusual to plan your resources in this particular way, but you've got pretty much lesson plans which are online with resources, with compare contrast activities, with contextually embedded games, and support activities that you design for them as well. So what happens is you've got resources for life. And then you can actually publish articles about how you use them and how you would improve them further, because this work is never ending. For 20 years you will be working, for 20 years you will be using these resources, or for 30 years you will be working, you'll be using these resources, and you'll be changing them, reshaping, adding to them, and so on, because that's how life is. So I think I'll finish for today. There was one thing that also we did in class, and I didn't cover it here just simply because it would be a little bit out of context, but I took students into some songs that I enjoy, and yes, I'm not going to cover it, but basically what I was showing when we played those songs, they were American songs sung by Bruce Springsteen. And it was interesting that when we actually tried to tell a story about those songs, we knew hardly anything. And yet American history and American culture is on our television every day. The reason why I did that was to show how much we need to actually um, bring to the surface through different focused activities for certain gaps in our knowledge to show, and for enabling us to actually work increasingly better informed. Otherwise, we think kind of we're fluent in this and that. But as soon as Bruce Springsteen comes up with something which is an icon in America, for some reason in Australia, depend, regardless of the fact that we are so close culturally um, to America, not necessarily that we're the same, but we have them on our television. Nevertheless, there was absolutely no relationship that our students had to those songs. Some of the songs you knew, but you couldn't tell a story what they were and why they were written and by whom and so on. Okay, so the point is the cultural knowledge cannot be privileged. It has to be made accessible to all our students because because being aware of our cultural heritage is very important, and we have to go beyond the boundaries of our culture being just Australian culture, because what happens, Australian culture is continuously enriched. So we have different nations that come to Australia, and we enrich um, each other, but we can only enrich each other when our teaching is not replacing, not wiping out those histories, but by doing, by engaging those histories. And one way to engage is produce contextually rich support activities that actually engage students' histories, as opposed to um, turning our classes into pedagogic games with teacher being in command of questions and answers. So that's very important. And then when students are engaged in this sort of critical and well-informed way, they can bring elements from their culture to color their poems, to color the ways in which they talk about activities, or the kinds of activities they want to talk about, right? They can actually confidently reach to their own resources and bring them out, but now they do it informed, not simply because this moment the teacher made room for them to say, how do you say bread in Sudanese? Or how do you say bread in Russian? Interestingly, in some cultures probably they don't have bread. But it's not about making space once in a while in class to enable students to actually say how you would do it in China. I don't know, China is so big, so every province or every probably region does it differently. So it's not about that or just that. What where I'm talking about is once you engage, because you create contextually rich resources, what happens is that students now see the reasons why particular things are in text and how they are integrated, and now they can actually confidently start playing by mixing whatever they know from their world with the things they are learning, but they do it consciously as opposed to hiding it or making mistakes and not getting um, their text right simply through interference. So that's some of the points I wanted to make. And just as an add-on, I would like us to look once for a very short while at this text or this language use table produced by Angela Scarina. And here you can see the different modes of communication that she actually identifies, and she talks about interpersonal, informational dimension, and also aesthetic dimension. Remember when I was actually talking about creating units of work, when we create units of work which engage students in actually working with literary pieces, be it Cinderella, be it The Lion and the Mouse, or whatever, I was talking about providing support that actually emphasizes and teaches students how to receive these books in an aesthetic way, as opposed to as words and grammar. Right, so I was really happy to see this. And there are some activities here, but they don't show you how to build them up and what to do. Nevertheless, I did, and just having this idea about the aesthetic dimension of communication to be present, it's very important. So remember, in lecture 3, I have produced this very simple graph about how to actually support students' aesthetic appreciation of text. And I have actually broke this. This is very tools of expressing personalities I mean, honestly, it could be anything. Weather. Tools of describing not clothes, maybe just, maybe objects, right? Um, nice or ugly, right? Objects, whatever. So as these texts that you use, and typically traditionally they are used for so-called shared reading, whatever this may mean, um, they are not just text, they are literary pieces, and the idea is for all students to engage in appreciation of this, to engage these texts at the aesthetic level. And as I said before, the aesthetics comes from culture, and that culture will be taught in one way or another in particular homes. But in particular homes, children don't have access to these discussions and to these forms of learning. So culture is not a privilege. It is very important that we teach students these kinds of we create these inroads into text so that students actually develop and expand their skills at many levels, not just words. So that's pretty much it. Now you can see that the tools of aesthetic appreciation. Now I just gave a direction, tools expressing empathy, and then you can actually go on and create activities that show differentiation and how language is used, so what people do, how they do it, and why they do it, all of that, or how these things are done in Lion and the Mouse story, and how, and in order to understand them better, you compare and contrast how they are done in other texts. So, and then you analyze with children, why is it that it's done in this text this way and in another text differently. These are very, very important activities because authors are not born, they are actually trained. And it's very important. We give our students access to human heritage, human cultural heritage. All right, this is and this is enough from me for today. Um, and this would close week 8.